So Vicky, what did you read in the paper? What did you see? Let's start from there. You're referring to the personalism, the problem of community and the individual, the problem of the community versus the individual. And personalism is just a response that seems to mitigate, solve, or if you like, respond to that problem. What did you see there? Let's hear you. Oh, Vicky, let's hear you, okay? If not, let me take Grace Apeka. Grace, what did you see there? What do you make of the content, the debate on individuality, individualism versus communitarianism? What is it all about?
Okay, Madam, please, upon what I read.
From what you read, yes, go ahead.
Yes. The paper was talking about individualism and then community. And then yes, from it spoke about the African perspective and then the Western perspective. Then I will take the African perspective. According to Jeche and Redu,
the community. Okay, Jeche. Kwame is a very renowned emeritus professor who passed just recently. Okay.
Yes.
So it's Jeche, Kwame Jeche. Go ahead.
Okay. Kwame Jeche and Redu are communalists, or why say a?
Communitarian.
Communitarian. Yes.
Very good.
They are communitarians, and they say according to them, the community alone constitutes the context. That's I'm reading from the paper I read from, and they say social from alone constitute the context, social and then cultural space in which the individual can get opportunity to become a better person in future.
Where are you reading from? Where are you reading from so that we can follow? Are you reading
Madam,
from?
I wrote my notes when I was reading from the paper.
Which paper? Which paper? I referenced two texts. I don't know which one you're referencing now. Is it the personalism paper or the Kwame Jeche paper?
The personalism.
Okay. So the author is mine also. Go ahead.
Okay, so from
not in me, but it is important so that whoever is reading can reference. It could be that the person writing didn't quote whoever she says said it very well. So when you say, okay, I read it from here, this is what I saw there. Then when I have a critique of what you are saying, you can say, oh, if if she's lying, then I'm lying because I read it from here. That's what I'm trying to teach you. It's a skill. Okay, go on now.
Yes, please. So according to them, without the community, an individual does not exist.
Tell your friend whose line is on to mute it. We're having feedback because someone is by you and his or hers is speaker. Okay?
No, please. I'm here alone.
Okay, so then someone's whatever is open. Please kindly keep it muted. If I mute all and you mute like that, you stress us. We are recording. Grace, sorry, don't lose your train of thought. I have to mute everyone again. Then you unmute and speak. Let's hope that we keep it like that. Go on.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so according to them, the context I read from Mao's paper, it says, Jeche and Redu say, Jeche and Redu says, the community alone constitutes the context, social or cultural space in which the individual can get opportunities to become a better person in future.
Very good. Continue.
So in this saying, it says that without the community or without the opportunities from the community, the individual cannot become a better person or does not exist. Then continuing, Mbiti says, it is the community that makes the individual to the extent that without the community, the individual has no existence.
Very good. Can you give me the quote that is that Mbichi is famously known for. If you did that, then I'll be so proud of you.
The quote.
A quote, a quotation that is attributed to Mbichi.
Yes, I think I am because we are. Since we
Excellent.
are, therefore I am.
Well done. You get a mark, a very big mark for that. Continue.
Thank you.
That's Mbichi. So far, if you haven't bothered, anybody else who hasn't bothered to even see the text at all, freely downloadable, freely accessible to you, they haven't seen it at all. From what your friend Grace Apeka has been saying so far, you should know that she has touched on some two schools of thought who are contending for a place of recognition and primacy. And what's the other one? Primacy just means treating them primary ahead of others. These two positions are a position that you can label as individualism. And then another position that says communitarianism. And Grace, by this brief submission, she's not done yet, has mentioned at least 3 names that you can associate with the position that you call communitarianism. The 3 names are Jechi, Kwame Jechi. When you are doing academic work, you don't put the titles. You don't say professor this and that. No, you just reference the name, especially the surname. If not, we would have said Emeritus Professor Kwame Jechi. You see, but then we say Kwame Jechi, and it is still very respectful. He is one name that has been associated with communitarianism. Another name that has come up in your sister's presentation is what? Wiredu. Kwame Kwesi Wiredu. Then just as she's building on her presentation, she has also touched on Mbiti, John Mbiti. These are names of people that we can attribute the position of communitarianism with. She has also indicated that the communitarian view seeks to place some importance, some value, not just some value, but thinks of the community as primary. So the opportunities that the supposed individual needs, I say the supposed because of the pessimist argument. The pessimist says, don't say the individual. But for clarity, we see the problem first, then we look at how people have mitigated that problem. So the supposed individual will need, according to communitarians, the supposed individual will need community to give him or her the opportunities, the framework, the stability, the protection of the supposed rights that the individual is pursuing. So without community, says the folks that she has mentioned so far, without community, the realization of that potential, that pursuit, the goals, the individual goals and aspirations that people have cannot be met. And she's doing that beautifully. She's even quoting Mbiti from her critical summary. Very good, Grace. Continue.
Okay, then he continues to say, I'm still on Mbiti. He continues to oppose upon the Cartesian cogito ergo sum, which was brought up by Descartes.
Cogito ergo sum. He would disagree with that. Okay. So it's
Yes.
sum. I think it's Latin. So cogito ergo sum. Go ahead.
He disagreed with what Descartes brought, which says, I think, therefore I am. And goes on to say that whatever happens to the individual also happens to the community. And then whatever happens to the community happens to the individual as well. And then I went on further to Kenyatta. Kenyatta says nobody is an isolated.
So that is another name. Sorry to interrupt again. So that is another name. Those who don't like to read. You see that today the screen is the text itself, because we want to unravel it, we want to open it out. So Grace just mentioned Kenyatta. Add Kenyatta to Wiredu, to Jechi, to Mbiti. You will see others. I don't want to go ahead of your friends. Take note of those names and what they say and why they are labeled communitarian and how you can categorize them. Because so far the names I've heard from your friend Grace are all supposedly what? African communitarian writers. Then you will see the point they are making and how it contrasts. That means how it differs from the individualist or the view we call individualism. And what they are pulling their hairs, this argument comes in, and what the contribution of personalism is to the debate. That is how you do philosophy, what you learned, level 100. Reading a philosophical text, see the argument lines, then do critical analysis, see the lines of argumentation, the main premise. What you see, that's what we are doing. We are doing a practical application of that together. Okay, so she has mentioned Kenyatta also. Add it. When you get that and you see what each one of them is saying, it helps you get a comprehensive understanding of, oh, so that is what communitarian is saying. Okay, but they are all African. Okay, then we saw some Western thinkers too that are labeled as communitarian. They say X, Y, or Z. Maybe they don't agree fully with which school, but they have their own version of communitarianism. You get that. Then now you want to contrast and see what those that we call individualists are saying. Rawlsian, Kantian, there I go. See, when you do that, it helps your understanding. Then you can now see the point of what? The contention. It is a problem of philosophy, just like the mind-body problem, just like distinguishing objective idealists from subjective idealists, and which one we will think is more defensible and idealist position. And how Russell comes in with another contention in philosophy, reality versus appearance, not from the perspective of Plato. Then we are now on the problem of what? This is a social and political philosophical problem of the community versus the individual. Then we build. So that's how you keep building on what we've done and how you're able to tease out what is philosophically problematic about the two views, not sociologically, not politically, not mathematically, but the philosophical aspect of it. That's what we are doing. So you do the narration, clarify, then you tease out to point out what is the philosophical problem there. The course is philosophical problems. And Grace is doing well. She's driving the lecture. You can see I want to go ahead of myself, but I see that she has done some background reading. We engage your colleagues. The recording was uploaded. If you're on the site, you have seen it. I copied your Sakai, friends. Okay. So if you have even played the video, you have a fair idea of what it's about. And now have a contribution to make. Go on, Auntie.
Okay, so Kenyatta says nobody is an isolated person or individual. The individual's uniqueness is secondary. It's a secondary fact about himself or herself. Meaning that he says the individual's uniqueness, which is the autonomy of the person, the freedom of the person and everything, is a secondary fact about that person. Oh. So from there, I'll move on to individualism. Hello?
Oh, I can hear you, Grace. I want you to flow. That's why I've shut my thing. So that if I talk, it doesn't interrupt you. I'm hearing you clearly. So you have mentioned some African communitarian authors. Do you want to touch on some non-African, or if you like, Western communitarian thinkers?
Like McIntyre.
Very good, McIntyre. Alistair McIntyre is one of the, who is laughing? Alistair McIntyre is there. You would see who else? Who else do you see before Grace continues? Let's ask that this. Nanaya, who else is an African, excuse me, it's a Western communitarian author? I won't scroll down so you see it. Who else would you label as a communitarian author but doesn't have African antecedent? Who from the text? Let's see if people have read. Quick, put your hands up, folks. I'm giving you marks, and I won't pay marks. You're tired of the marks now. Keep your hands up. Michael Sandel. Well done. They themselves do not want to even be called a communitarian because they are afraid that you will push them so much into the position that is extreme. So they like liberal, they like Republican. You see all that in the text. So Michael Sandel is labeled what?
Charles Taylor.
Charles Taylor, excellent. Who is giving the thing answers and I can't see him? Who is that? Is it Grace Apeka? No, Grace is speaking.
No.
Is it Jennifer? The person is just
Madam
giving
Barbara.
Barbara, I can't see your mouth shaking anywhere on my screen. Anyway, well done, Barbara. So Michael Sandel is one of them, like she said. Then you will see Alex de McIntyre. The surname is fine. If you don't know the first name, don't worry. McIntyre is fine. Sandel. Who else? They're all Western communitarian thinkers. They have their thoughts around something like what Grace has said so far about the African one. Okay. Give me one more. There's another name, Walzer. Michael Walzer is also captured.
Rosa.
Very good. All right. So all of these people seem to have a slant towards what? Projecting communality, what they would call community, belongingness, collective welfare, the collective entitlement, over and above individuality, me, myself, and I. You see that kind of language. So when Grace was speaking, she said, your uniqueness is an individual attribute or quality, if you like. Your uniqueness is seen as secondary, according to Kenyatta, or who did she reference? One of them, she referenced it. Things that, as for your uniqueness, it is secondary. Secondary means second on the line. The first and foremost is whose daughter are you or whose son are you? Where do you come from? What language? So we. We'll see to it that we get it done. And it is only one person who do it. We said all of that in the discussion, a recorded lecture that I have with main campus that you already have. Okay, so let's hear Grace now. Folks, you must know authors that slant towards community, the defense of what? Community, and therefore have been labeled as what? Communitarians, whether from African antecedents or from Western. Let's hear Grace now. She tells us that she's going to slant to the West individualist side. Go ahead.
Okay, this one, Rawls. Rawls is, I think, an individualist. Yes. And then he goes on to say that the individual should be given the opportunity to express their rights, their freedom, and then their autonomy. It shouldn't be, they should place more emphasis they should place more emphasis on human rights more than the community. It goes on to say that they say they are unique and they are free to do what they want and not be told what to do. They should be able to choose what they want to be and not what the community wants them to be. Yeah, I think so. Yes. Okay, that's where I've reached. Anyone can continue.
Well done, Grace. I like the way she's speaking confident. That's why I've reached, so someone else can continue. All right. So if I will put some content and streamline the discussion a bit, not that everyone should be allowed to do what they like. That couldn't have been an individualist position. But I think that their emphasis, so the two extremes are contending over which of these two, the individual versus the community, which should be given priority over and above the other. It's like the chicken and egg scenario. So when we have the issue of choice, morally, she captures it well, morally and ontologically, which should be given priority. Morally is talking about when it comes to what is right or wrong, what should be done or what shouldn't be done, whose view should be given priority over which one. And that is the long discussion I've had in the lecture. Okay, the individualist says, because everyone has what? Their autonomy. Take note of that word. Self. I am myself. Self-rule. Their autonomy, their uniqueness, their ingenuity, creativity. These qualities are not for collectives. We don't have collective mind. One, creativity. As soon as it becomes a collective, it will originate from one person, specific mind, then others will buy into it and will share. But creativity is an individual thing. Autonomy, uniqueness. So my choices, there goes the argument. my choices should be given ultimate priority over and above my obligations. Now, when you see Charles Taylor, whom Grace beautifully included in the communitarian thinkers, Charles Taylor's argument, it's not Charles Taylor the president, I said that in the lecture, so I'm sure you know already. His argument is, you cannot talk about rights. So he's a communitarian reacting to the individualist. You cannot talk about rights as if rights are hanging in the air. So we can give you rights, autonomy, freedoms, liberties, etc., like you are asking for. But those rights cannot be situated outside of a community context. See that the right must be within a certain framework. It is that society that will make rights meaningful. That community puts flesh to the right. That community gives you the options that will make your choice meaningful. That community gives you the language and the frame. So you will see that we are not saying just go and do what you like, or they are not saying, oh, community must sit on your neck. You don't have your individuality. If you stretch the argument, you will see that that is not really what is happening. But let's go slowly. One is not saying that no room for individuality. Neither is the other one saying that don't do anything community. But they are fighting for what? Which one has what? Primacy, morally speaking, and ontologically. I think ontologically, the communitarian thinkers say before a human being descends and becomes a human being, you come and meet community. You yourself, you're being born is as a result of community. Father, mother living in a certain context, guided by certain rules, speaking a certain language, eating a certain food, having a certain history. All of those precede your existence. They come before you even become a human being. To come and grow, eat that food, be protected by that culture, what have you. Then when you become a human being, before you start talking right. So without community, the Chi says there cannot even be a human being. See that it is the community that produces the individual. Then some individualists argue that community is constituted by individuals. There can't be community without individuals. So it's like the chicken and egg scenario. Is it the chicken that comes before the egg, or the egg comes before the chicken? Then we can drag it and drag it and drag it when it comes to ontology. But when it comes to the morality of it, then the problems are even worse. What is right or wrong? So I asked some funny questions in my lecture with the main campus. I said, if I am going to marry a certain sister, and the community, in other words, here it can be the family community, says, we don't want such a woman in our home. You who don't like, I'm going to smell the agboku. I said that with fun, I'm the one that is going to see the person's face in the morning without makeup. Let me choose someone that I can live with. If God gives me 60 years of my life after, say, 28 years bachelorship and spinstership, the rest, God has blessed me so much. He'll give me 60 years. I'm going to live with this person for 60 years. In Rhiannon, don't come choosing for me, because if I don't choose, well, of course, you can even choose and change your mind. How much more when you are choosing and it is not your choice? It was imposed on you in the name of, we don't like these people. Or any job, we can't take this woman. You see that can be very problematic. So when we have such a conflict, whose own should we choose and why? Now someone will quickly say, oh, that one, they should let the person choose, until I tell you that, well, the reason why the family says so is because the inheritance system that family runs doesn't coincide with the inheritance system of the other person. You are a very rich girl. The family has come together and given you all resources because they know that you are the only child of their brother. And they love you. So the father's property has come to the lady. Now, this lady marries from so and so other tradition, inheritance will go to the husband, because that is how the people interpret their tradition. For example, I'm just giving you a scenario for you to see why it's not a straightforward matter, sir. And they can't have a say in you. There are people whose children cannot inherit if we are going by the traditional system, they don't inherit from the left, that's from the father's side, or from the right, from the mother's side. They can't inherit. Because if you go to your mother, they say you had you inherit from your father's side. If you go to the father, say you don't inherit here, you go to your mother's side. So all the work you've done is cos 90. If we're going traditionally, you see that. So that could be one of the reasons why someone would say, please look at it again. Therefore, these are very trivial examples. I'm not giving the substantive one because all of them are in the lecture, most of them as well. Where you go and have someone who says, it is my right to have the kind of education I want and the kind of religion I want to belong to, etc. As an individual, I'm entitled to that. Then the community that you are in also tells you, but we don't admit this here. So I gave those scenarios in the text. We cannot admit it here because we want a stable framework where we can cohabit, we can live together. So there has to be a frame that we have agreed on and proposed for ourselves as members of that community. So if you go to Rome, you do what the Romans do, something like that. Which one should be given priority over which? Should I come and decide that I have my right, so I'm doing my whatever, I have my right to fresh air? And I always use such examples because that is what registers in the minds of people who are eager to hear something. Like you, I have a right to fresh air. So I'm the lecturer. So when I'm coming to the lecture, then I remove all my clothes so I can get fresh air. In the name of I have a right to fresh air. See how I'm critiquing the individualist or the individualist argument. What about the student who has a right to learn without interruptions, without obstructions? They also have a right. So what do we do? Then the right to clash with right, and there will be right clashes all over the place, and we will cease to exist. So the strength of the communitarian argument is, even in our pursuit of right, especially like someone like Taylor, even in the pursuit of right itself spells out a defense for community. In order to get your rights, we need a stable, cooperative community of people who know their obligations. So I have a right to have my own face, but I have an obligation towards my students to prevent them from being obstructed. I have a right to have my own fresh air. That's what I was saying. But I can't obstruct the right of my student from listening to a lecture without having to look at a madam that is standing there without clothing because she's feeling hot. So everybody's own is a right. That's why community and its welfare and obligations and responsibilities should be given priority, says the communitarian. You see that they are not crazy. They're talking. Now let me turn and then critique the communitarian. Like I was saying earlier, are you the one going to spell the woman's face? Why are you imposing? Now here we don't. Okay, when they take the inheritance, I don't mind. Fine sister, I say inheritance. I want fine sister, I say inheritance. Let them take all the inheritance. I want the sister. It's me. My desires, my choices, my preferences, my uniqueness. You see where the argument is going. You see where the LGBTQTWSYZ thing is. It centers around this. The community versus the individual. I have a right to change my face to that of a dog. I've seen some on YouTube, people who out of excitement and they want to be them. I mean, Charlie, it's me. I have my choice. Self. Go to the place there, enter the, I don't know if it's plastic surgery or whatever. Give them days. And I wish I could find the picture. I would have shared it right. I had it for moral philosophy there. Go in there. After some days, the face is no longer a human face. It's a dog with whiskers. You have that right. But the communitarian can ask you, yes, that's your right. But have you forgotten that you're a mother? The child also has a right to a mother. She didn't choose. You brought them to the world. It's her right. So now that you become a dog, or you put on a dog face, if you like. Well, dog face or dog. What about the child's right to his or her mother that you have taken from them? Okay, so that critiques this one. And then so what is this pull and push that is going on? That's how I can summarize it for you. Very accessible level 200 language. If we're engaging at a higher level, then we will speak that very nice. So take note of these words: autonomy, uniqueness, choice, ingenuity, creativity. These are all supposedly, and rights, liberties, you see, are supposedly individual, or the strength of the individualist argument, that you have to respect that. I want to eat chicken, fufu and chicken this afternoon. The family is eating fufu and goat meat. You say every day you want to do. I want to eat it. You don't want me to have my choice. It's problematic. Why? Are you me? So you have to give people space. You see the example I've given. But what if I want to change my face to a dog? My students have a contract with me. We are studying. I'm teaching them and they are learning from me. Then you go home and go and wear a dog face because you have a right to. Is that how to interpret, right? Okay. Then the community too now, because we say we want a social welfare community, we want to integrate and have a stable cooperative context. So now I can't decide what I want to eat. The car too, I should buy the car that everybody's using. You see the example I'm giving. Now you want to dictate how I run my life. So that is the contention. I'm speaking it in the blunt way. So you see why there's a tension. So someone wants to enter Ajimota school. Ajimota school says, we don't do this here. If you want to come here, this is the rule of the game. Then the parents say, but you can't tell me what to do just because I want to come there. You don't want me to worship what? What do you want? This is a faith matter, and it is enshrined in the Constitution. I have a right to determine what I want to worship or who I want to worship. Well, let's do a critical examination, a little. You can't go into all the details and look at all aspects, but I ask questions. So if my faith also tells me that I shouldn't wear anything, maybe I'm a fetish for something, so I do in my thing like that, that because of that status, I'm talking faith, religion. I don't wear anything. I do beats. And I like that example. I do beats. And then they pour powder. I don't work alone. There has to be someone doing the powder all the time, especially when it comes. Then it means at late exam hall, question 1. Then it comes. They have to bring the guy to pour the powder. How about that? It's not religion and faith. How do we negotiate it? That's the question. That's why we are doing this. It's a problem, social problem, practical, not word of form something. This earth is like that. A person is a Muslim sister. She wears a hijab. You say, this is the uniform. Don't bring hijab there. But that is her faith. Faith is my faith. You see how I've shifted and I'm not defending the other side. Because that's what someone who is doing critical analysis engages matters. You take this person's view. That's what we learned in level 100. Then you turn it and look at the view. Look at that's open. You are open-minded. You are receptive to the views. It doesn't mean you admit them, but you receive them to hear. What if the people are doing what shouldn't be done? They are insisting that, okay, here, this is what? Why should you prevent me from having my religion? But why should you bring every religion? So if the another religion says, me, I don't write exams certain that I stand. I put all of that there. If I'm writing exams, I can't sit. I'm not allowed to sit because the angels that I move with, they don't sit. So when I sit down, they'll get angry and I'll start killing. That's my faith. So I don't sit. I stand. Exam hall. I stand and I walk around. It's my faith. You see what that means for that institution, if it's a school or a church or something. Then people start walking around, start work, then he's going around looking at people. When he gets answer, I said the angels are gone. Now I can sit. He comes and writes everything. So there are implications. That's the point. Both ways. How do we negotiate that? That's the problem. Should we give the individual, that's how they speak, the individual priority over and above the community? Individualists say our rights should be prior. Every other thing, community ought to be secondary. That is, even if we want to give it attention at all. Communitarians say no. Community, in other words, community here means the collective that is sharing, should be primary. Okay, that's the debate. Personist or personalism comes in and says, you people are, first of all, throwing language left, right, center. We don't have the individual in society. You have persons. You don't have the individual. If you think of the individual, that is when you can think of rights without an accompanying obligation. When someone sits in front of the person is himself, his mother, his father, his language, his background, his culture, is all packaged together. That's why when you ask someone, where are you going? You say, I'm going to buy brown bread. Brown bread. This is his house. Meanwhile, you think you have an individual sitting in front of you. He is a composition. That's what the person is arguing. The person sitting in front of you is a composition of so many things put together. Those so many things include the person's individuality, uniqueness, rights, autonomy, consciousness, all those things that are labeled as what? Individual. The person sitting in front of you is a composition of those, plus the person's, look at the language now, communality, not community. That's the critique a person is bringing, and the proposal the person is making, hoping that it will help bring clarity to the debate. Not necessarily resolve it totally, but shift it from the over the bar place that people are going and place it where it matters most for clarity. That's what personalism is. Okay, personalism is saying when you have the human society is composed of what? Persons, not an individual or the individual. Because if you talk about the composite being as the individual, that is where you generate all these problems you people are having. Right, autonomy, let it be right. If you see a human being as a person, you see that immediately he has rights, yes, but he also immediately, naturally, necessarily has obligations. If you are your mother's son, then it is not a matter of choice what blood is running through you and the implications it has on you. It's not, you don't choose that one, that one is given. Just like your individuality is given, your communality, especially the immediate community, is given. You are born into a society and fed a certain kind of food and taught a certain kind of language, which embodies your conception of the world. How you interpret something, if you see some brother, BBT and sister, how you interpret it as a result of how you have been brought up. There are people who don't respect, they don't even know they don't respect because of their upbringing. I mean, someone, Westerner can stand in front of our venerable chiefs in Ghana here with the left hand and says, hey, what's up, man? What's up, man? You, the bred and battered typical African Ghanaian, let's say Ashanti or Kra or something, you will revere that because it is part of your makeup. But before we even go to the one that you are tutored in, you see that a person may be called Ghanaian, but if he's not born and bred and cultured in that setting, you act like wherever he was groomed. Okay? So a human person, says the personists, trying to bring clarity to the debate between individualism and communitarianism. He's saying, don't talk the individual. It will create problems. Address human beings as what? Persons. And by persons, it's not just a language change. Persons are a composite. If you're a person, you have individuality and communality. By individuality, we mean you have rights that must be respected. You have uniqueness we can't overlook. So you are a sister. You are unique. You are not like the brother in that job. Therefore, you are entitled to what? Maternity leave. Not in the same way as a man may be entitled to. That's your uniqueness. We can't jumble everybody together and say, as for this job, nobody gets absent. Women do that thing at the time of the man. You have to be conscious of that because she's a person. If you treat people as individuals, you cut them off all attachments they have and treat them as if they do not have any connection. They are atoms. That is what Taylor critiqued them for. You are arguing as if human beings are atoms. So he says that is an atomistic way of analyzing the human problem. So that the book Atomism, which is referenced in this text, is attributable to Taylor. He's telling Charles Taylor, not the president. He's telling those who argue from individualist perspective that most of them, maybe they don't intend it, but they argue as if human beings are atoms hanging in the air. Atoms can exist on their own. The smallest indivisible part of matter that can exist on its own. That's an atom. Taylor says we are not like that. And Taylor's voice is capturing all the various communitarian views we have seen. Okay, look on the screen. I'll be projecting for you to see. See the page is there. It is not missing. You have that reference. It's freely downloadable. Your job is to read. My job is to help you understand. Then your job further will be to answer questions. Okay. So look on the screen. You see that he's saying that you cannot argue as if human beings are atoms. But the only problem personists have with both communitarian and individualists, including Taylor, is that they argue nicely, but they are using the wrong language. They are saying the individual. Why don't you call the human being the community? The human being the community. She's not the community. The human being is not the individual either. The human being is a person. So she's not just an aspect of herself and not the other. She's necessarily both. If you're a queen mother, I told your friends, if you're a queen mother, have rights and choices and whatever, but you cannot do certain things, not because you don't have a right to them, but your obligation, you see, to your collective will restrict you. So it is a check on you, finding a balance between telling that image your peace of mind and protecting the integrity of the people you stand for as a queen mother. You can't go and stand there and say, "Mama, give me kenke, put pepper." Queen mother in front of it. It's not that you don't have a right to eat what you want to eat. You have worked hard, you have your money, so it is your right. But you are a person, a composite. So we look at your personhood. How much is going into it will inform how you are behaving, how people should behave. When we are saying, the person is saying, Miles is saying that is where the real problem is, how to negotiate the individuality of a person and her communality. They are both within one person, not some community like Asante or Ghana versus Nancy or Gifty or Barbara. No. Because people, there comes the critique against the communitarian. Watch, people are not influenced by just one specific so-called community. Even the boundaries of community are fluid. One person is both Asante and Ghanaian and academic, female and Christian. The other person is what? Look at the blend. When you call academics, she and her Muslim friends will come. She and her Muslim friends will come. Meanwhile, when you call Christians, she's academic with the Muslim. But when you call Christians, she will not belong to that community. Then even within Christian, you might call Adventists, and that person will not be part. So look at the various groupings, collectivities. That's the point I'm making. Which one is now influencing the system? Which one's rules, or if you like, which one is the one that is supposed to be the community that we are referencing? We don't have one. In fact, ECOWAS is a community. OAU, the whole Africa is a community. Ghana is not a community. So which level of community will be the focus of the communitarian debate? You can clarify. I told your friend, someone is in Ghana here, is more Chinese than the China person. She's sitting Chinese, checking Chinese currency. Okay, let's use America, that is realistic. Someone is in Ghana, is more American than American president. Why? Because he's interested in dollar, interested in hamburger, KFC, the phone. Look at us. How Ghanaian are we? From what time? Even if you are speaking, you put in one line of tree, which you still translate. People say, oh, the tree sometimes I've translated. Who told that the English you are speaking? The English you are speaking, everybody hears. People are just pretending to be hearing everything so that the class will go on. So my point then is, you cannot say the community as if there's a specific the community is the one that molds. It can start from somewhere where you are born into, but that very culture you are born into is not even a static one. It keeps changing. These are all arguments the personalist paper is making, personalism is making, that the boundaries of community are not fixed. They are ever changing, especially in a world that is now currently what? The global village. Therefore, what? Therefore, deal with human persons and not the individual versus the community. As soon as that happens, we are able to meet what? The needs of rights, autonomy, what have you, which is advocated by individualists. And at the same time, meet the needs of what? Community, its welfare, obligations, the opportunities that it gives us, what have you, we are able to fulfill both. Then the clear challenge is when I have a conflict of that which is required of my communality, there's a conflict between my communality and my individuality. It is me. For instance, if I have to get fresh air, the same fresh air example, I feel hot. It's my individual desire to get fresh air. I know that I owe it as an obligation to my colleagues sitting next to me, not to just come and remove my dress because I'm feeling hot and take part in public space. And I'm like, some people are not conscious of that. I've told your friends, you fried the red plantain 12 midnight with palm oil in your estate room because you paid for the house. Only your individual now dream. What about the neighbor who at that time is trying to have some rest for the next day's hardware? You can't be an individual. So the two will be pulling you. This thing, I can check the car horn. If I blow it over for about 4 or 5 hours, I can tell if it is fit. Then immediately your communality will tell you, but that can be offensive to my sleeping colleagues. So now it is a battle of which should be given priority over which. And that one is no longer something external, that it is the community version. I've already said we don't have one. There will be several. So which one? The world community is one. Why is everybody going to look at what is happening in Russia? Because it has implications. Look at our poor brothers. America coughs, the world catches a cold. Or sneezes, America sneezes, the world catches a cold. So we can even extend the argument to the world community, not just a language community. But we may speak tree, but when you call the Christian body, it might include people from all over the world, and you are one of them. Then before long, they are speaking gender, women versus men. And you see that the table will shift immediately, the community will change. Then they will talk about business partners and those who bet, and the betting group will change. Barca fans, then before long. I'm trying to show you. So you can't speak the community is the only, as if there is a specific community sitting where somewhere. That's the critique against the communitarian argument we've seen so far. And then the individualist too will talk about, is talking about rights as if rights hang in the air. I'm telling them that rights don't hang in the air. Rights are given for others to enjoy. So the one giving the right and the one enjoying it should form a composite frame where the rights can be meaningful and well protected. I have done all the talking and I've said all that I can say on personalism. Barbara, I see a question you want to read, so I move to the place that you can read. Is there a question?
Madam, please, it's a question.
It's a question, eh?
Yes.
Okay, please ask.
Madam, so that means, according to the person's point of view,
Yes.
One cannot be an individualist or a communitarianist fully, because
Yes.
that means our rights are tied to our obligations in our society. So that means one cannot be an individualist fully or a communitarianist fully. It goes hand in hand, right?
Yes, the point where even to reinforce that is that we cannot talk meaningfully of individualism or communitarianism. When we say we can't mean it. Because before you became a so-called individual, you would already have belonged to a community. You would have a mother and father, and brother and a sister. Forget brother and sister. You would have to necessarily have been born by people who necessarily would share a context, language, cultural background, food they eat, the way they think. You see, which influences you before you grow up and pick up language and start saying, please, I have a right to food. You should know food. You should know right. Who will teach you that? It's a certain context. So we are saying you can't have individualism. That is, I'm talking right. The way Taylor critiques them. You're talking right as if you don't have any necessary attachment. It's not true. You are naturally a social being. This is from Taylor, the 22. And therefore, you should be concerned about what you are. The welfare of that thing that you already are should be prior. But if you lift the argument from there and then you contrast it, then the individualist will also tell the communitarian that yes, I am necessarily connected, maybe, but I come with my uniqueness. So you can't also say in the name of community that people don't have uniqueness. People don't have ingenuity. People don't have creativity. They don't have thinking. It's not a collective thing. Where is the brain for everybody? Everybody has their own one. I bring the idea. If you also think it is fine, then you buy into it. But it is my head that does the thinking, and your head does that. So creativity, thought, uniqueness, rights, are individual. And so no communitarian also can maintain that there is nothing individual. As soon as you say that you yourself are expressing your individuality, therefore you can't have a consistently what's the expression? A view that you can consistently defend as individualism in a way that doesn't include your communal aspect. Neither can you have typically communitarian view that doesn't give recognition to individuality. So the question that the person is, so you what I contend with. Don't call the person the individual as if a person is made up of only individuality. Call him person or human being. But as you call him that, understand that there's a reason why you want to change the labeling. You call him a human person so that you can incorporate all the various aspects that make her and give recognition, due recognition to them, and then confront actual conflict that can arise when we deal with the human person. So you make the person, the fufu, I said that in the slide, fufu is a blend of the cassava and the plantain. It has been blended. So the human person sitting in front of you is a fufu. You can't take her individuality out and leave the communality alone. And you can't take the communality out. It's blended. It's one. She's one. Like cake, Cake. There's flour, there's margarine, there's sugar. They're all blended together. And now cake is sitting in front of you. You say you want to take out the sugar. How do you take out the sugar and leave the flour? You can't have her individuality without her communality. So you should be concerned about how your client's mother is feeling. Because it has an influence on how she's thinking that day. Her thinking is private to her, it's individual to her. But her relational ties can have an influence on her. Some people can write exam and pass because the guy broke their heart. It is important. But if you treat people like individual, you come start work. You think all that the person is what is sitting in front of you. And you are dealing with them that way. Remove your hijab. This place done. The person has religious ties. Have you forgotten? So we have to see how we integrate it amicably because you can't have one side without the other for the being to survive well. They are both necessary. That is the person's argument. And neither of the two views will reject it. They just haven't captured it well to take care of it. So when you say the individual, the community, then there will be problems. I don't want to belong to X community. See, I don't want to belong. I have a choice to come and do. So the individual should be angry. But when you talk communality, the fact that you are a relational being, then there is no argument about it. Even the individualist knows that he or she is necessarily relational. So you deal in relation with others. You are a communal being, not that you are stuck to a certain fixed, static, unchanging the community being anywhere. People have that choice to freely live and yet be connected to others. All right. Is there any other question, please? Thomas, go ahead. Go ahead, Thomas. Hey, bye, Thomas. Your hand is up, Thomas Che. If you are speaking, then unmute because you are muted. All right. So whilst we wait for Thomas, go ahead, Thomas. I can hear you. you will see that this, what is on your screen now is where the pessimist is interrogating, is examining the debate, the substance of the debate, what at all their contention is about or over. That's what, this is page, 247. And it talks about the subject that the two schools of thought are contending over. Okay. If you are reading, this should guide you.
Madam, we can't see you.
Madam,
Yeah.
it's a blank space. So.
A blank screen, it will come. It's a network.
See.
Hold on a little, it will come. You haven't seen any of the things, or it just disappeared. On the screen, your page 240, you have the
We
picture.
haven't seen any of the things.
Nothing has been shown.
Oh, sir, nothing has been showing you. It's your, it's okay, I'll stop it and reshare. Listen, it's the paper itself. The paper that I've asked you to get. The link is there, it's downloadable. Okay? So when you see it, it will be there. And share again. I have now unshared it. So you see page 247 has that information on what the author thinks is the actual bone of contention, okay, between the two. The author thinks it is ultimately about the use of, I hope you can see now. Can you see now?
No, madam.
Hey.
Yes.
Yes,
Madam.
Yes. Oh, it has always been there. Okay, so this page, we have, and then you were doing well. It means you weren't seeing anything on the screen, but you were able to grace up account. They did very well. You have engaged the text. I was referring to this page, examining the individual in the communitarianism, individualism debate. Okay, the individual in quotes, so the word, the individual that they are talking about. See, this one tells you that what the subject is, the folks are not engaging. One person is using his interpretation of the way they want to emphasize individuality. So they are just calling the object, the whole object, or the individual. But the object sitting in front of you is not just an individual. All of that is going on here. The bearer of individuality can be something more than just bearing what? Individuality. Okay, that's the point of the communitarian. And they don't bear only individuality. The human being is also communal. This is what Alistair McIntyre, Taylor, Sandel from Western thought are saying. Then when you bring it to the African, Kenyatta, and all the people that Grace mentioned, Jachi, Gredu, Mbiti, I am because we are. And since we are, therefore I am. I can't say I am if there isn't a we. I am because, in other words, I am for the reason that we are. And since we are, therefore I am. It's a very strong expression of relationality. The only thing is that you shouldn't restrict it to a specific community. That's the critique against communitarian by the personists. That that we, that I say we are, it's not some Akan or Asante or Ga something. No. It will be relative to where we are. So if I'm at the philosophy department, I'm talking philosophy, then I can have the philosophy community as a reference point this moment. The next moment, my reference point will be gender, maybe women. The next moment, it might be Christian, maybe you see that mothers. The next time, maybe talking about lectures versus students. So the community we reference keeps changing. Of course, the starting point, which is immediate family, will be fixed. You can't choose your mother, you are born. But you can choose who you label as a mother. You see the difference? Yeah. But the one whose blood is running, you can't choose it. So there's a necessary tie. There's a necessary connection. There's a necessary communality. And that is why the communal frame that you find yourself in, you should be as concerned about it as you are about your rights. So I must be concerned about what I'm doing as a mother, not just what I'm doing as me, myself, and I. That blend is very important. Okay, so that is what is going on that page. It's a textual analysis. So look at that. What we mean, all that is going. It is worth noting that even the communitarian, look at the highlighted portion of your screen now. You should note that even the communitarian admits individuality, even the communitarian. So if it's individuality, it wouldn't have been an issue at all. It is when you say the individual should be given priority, then we have a problem. But if you say rights must be given recognition, we understand. Insofar as those rights fit into the communal context. So Ghana may be a community. Ghana has rules. You can't say you have a right to speech. So you are saying things that can break down. You see where I've gone? How I'm able to sharp. See my cap is very sharp. Come look at how you are angry this morning or hungry, and open your mouth any angle in the name of I have a right to free speech. You can be shown the right to keep quiet. All right, if you get it, then we are look at it. I told you to look out for autonomous. See, that's it here. See Taylor, the identity of the autonomous self-determining individual. All these are here. It's quite a heavy text, I think. Not difficult, but heavy. You have to do so much munching to clarify. So I've walked you to see Sandel. Those who haven't read this place, we are showing you instances where they are all doing what? Accepting, even though they are communitarian in their orientation, they accept that there are rights. So they are not against pursuing individuality or rights. They are against your making that a priority over and above another. They think it should be the other way around. Okay. That's the highlighted portion I've given you there. So the duties and rights of blah, 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 blah. All these examples given from Walzer, Walzer, Taylor, McIntyre up there should tell you that communitarianism would not be antagonistic to rights. The communitarian argument will not be against pursuing rights, autonomies, or freedoms as such. That is if you understood individuality properly. That aspect of a person, that is what individual. If you speak that way, not even the communitarian will be angry. But when we say the individual should be given priority over the community, so when you come to the department, we should give you your priority regardless of its implications on the community. That will be problematic and it cannot be admitted. Okay? So that is this is what is going on with the personist critique, first of the individualist argument. Okay, all this I've said. I'm trying to see if there is something I should help you with so that when you read clearly. Okay, all of this. So if you clarify the language, you see that the two are agreed. Okay, get ready to read. Who is going to read a portion that is coming? You see the ambiguities in the communitarian critique of individualism and its implications. He's also using the same individual phrase that he's critiquing in different ways. So I highlight them to show you that one of the senses, when they use individual, they mean individuality. Another time when they use individual, they mean community detached human being. Another time they mean community situated person. So they are using the word in an equivocal way, creating a lot of ambiguity. So it doesn't make the point of the communitarian strong. And therefore, so here I'm diagnosing, identifying problems, showing what is wrong, using the text to show that. You don't have to do all of that. It's to be so much work. Just know the main, strands of the argument. We show all of this, identify the problem, say, but upon careful examination, look at what is highlighted now. But upon careful examination, when you carefully examine the debate, it comes to light that what Taylor contests, what Taylor, representative of the communitarian front, what he's arguing against is why the assertion of individuality should start a political theory. Why should you start off emphasizing just one side of the human person over and above the other? When the human person is naturally communal, start with the two, the dual. because they are both necessary and natural to the human person. If you did that, you have no issues, but we don't do that as individualists. Okay, all right. There we go again. Rationality is also an individual thing. Freedom, right bearing, but belonging is part of your being. You naturally belong. People don't know that. They want me, I don't want to talk to anybody. You are not an antisocial being. You are born a social being. Aristotle. I can a philosophy. So nipa free through besia, nipa kuro. When a human being descends from above, he or she descends to a human habitation. You have to be as integrated into society as you are individual. It's not just pursuing right. You have to be an integral person. You can't be a hermit. There are people like that. They don't greet anybody. They don't talk to anybody when they are in a so if something is happening to you, who do you want to come? Even the food we eat in Africa, for example, should tell you the way the process the food will go through before it becomes food should tell you that you are communitarian. Diagnosis. Someone read this first paragraph. We have to end short. Let me take Regina, do you want to read? Sorry, please, is it a reading or question?
No, it's a reading.
Go ahead. Thank you.
From the discussion so far, observation worth making is that many of the difficulties of communitarian arguments stem from self-assigned tasks to improve the individualist conception of the individual by active restoration of the necessary
some of you, we are losing you at portions. So
Doc.
I can hear some of what you are reading.
Oh, sorry, Doc.
Yeah. I don't know where it is coming from, the feedback.
Okay, I hope it's clear now.
Something, you are fidgeting with something, or someone is fidgeting with something around you. Can you unmute now and read for us, okay?
Please, can you help?
Yes, it's better.
Diagnosis and consequences.
Let's read from the second half. But although the communitarian vision.
Okay. But although the communitarian misnomer may be, the project cannot.
Oh, David. Some of okay. My sister, let's ask someone else to read and let me see. Okay, I want to check if it's from my end here or from yours. Okay, thank you. Let's Wendy. Wendy, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Increase your volume just a little bit more. But go ahead.
But although the communitarian vision to correct the misnomer may be valuable, the project cannot be discharged fruitfully in the individualist conceptually tangled vocabulary. The individual without attracting criticism. The question that place of individuality in the context of community embeddedness of the individual.
Okay, hold on. Let me clarify. See that when I'm naming the individual, that was a good read. Then I put it in quotes so that it is like a name. So although the communitarian vision to correct this misnomer may be valuable, the project cannot be discharged fruitfully in the individualist's conceptually tangled vocabulary. Which vocabulary is that? The individual. So we are saying they shouldn't use the phrase the individual. That one is in quote. I'm naming it. When they use it, then it becomes entangled. We don't know what they mean because then it is like calling you by just an aspect of you. That's the critique. We think that's where the problem is. We are diagnosing, and we are showing that when we diagnose, it shows us the consequences of this problem that is detected. Well done. Don't stop. You read the rest, Wendy. Hold on. To avoid being misunderstood, there's a proposal here. Then don't use the phrase the individual. Say the person. Because you won't call the human being the community, even though there are communal aspects to a person, just as there are individual aspects. But why do you want to call the human being the individual? Why don't you call her the community? When I say the community. Okay, if we can't do that, then we should find a word that captures both aspects of the person, and not just in referencing, but also in conception, how you think of that person. So when a person sits in front of you, say, oh, how are you? How's your mother? Did you have a good rest? If the person is from Ukraine and is in your office now, or has some business running in Ukraine or Russia, wherever, you will see that you should be concerned about it, because the person has all these as part of her personhood. She's not just some small, tiny, right-seeking, unique-seeking, creativity-seeking human being. That's the problem, says the individual, the person is. That's what we've been saying so far. My dear, read this one too. It's highlighted. So let's start from the beginning there. What do we say? I'm coming, just a minute. A human person, here, you can read from here. You should think of the human person as a human person who should be, Please, can you see it? Yes. What should, can you see the highlighted portion?
Okay.
Yes, what should be, yes, please read from there. What should rather?
Okay. What should rather have been a worthwhile task of correcting a distortion in the conception of the concrete human person, who should be conceived of as a composite, right-bearing and relationally obligated subject, whose conditions of human agency thus necessarily encompass individuality and communality.
No, what is very individuality and what?
Individuality and communality.
Very good. This is the language of the pessimist. So human beings have individuality and communality. Look at the language. It's an aspect of them. Not that human beings are individuals. Then we should say they are communities too. Okay, so human beings are right-bearing. They bear rights, and they are relationally obligated. They have obligations to people. Both of these are necessary. Necessary means that they are by force for the person. It's part of their makeup, naturally. They don't choose it. So just as I should be interested in, that's all that we are saying, just as I should be interested in the rights that you bear and how they should be protected and preserved, I should also be necessarily interested in how I am obligated, I have obligations towards what? My relational others. Not necessarily my Asante people or my Akan people, Gan people or Tree people or Aigbe. No. We are not talking about just some closed unit of relational others. We are talking about anyone you are relating to. So personists spread wide the notion of community to involve communality. So my relational others, so when I come to philosophy department, they become the community. When I go to the lecture hall, the people I'm dealing with become my community. When I go online, all of a sudden I'm relating to people out there. Human beings should be thought of as that complex. They are not some just individual. Well done, Wendy. Maybe you should find one more to read. Are there other hands up? Let me see. No. Okay, so Wendy can continue. Unless the other hands shoot up. Let's find the conclusion. The same thing I've said is here. And Wendy, you may read this one, the highlighted portion again.
Yes, please. Okay. Nevertheless, this study contends that if the communitarian critique, as well as the individualist claims and responses to this critique, is disambiguated
Well done.
of its linguistic and conceptual incoherencies and inconsistencies, it would become self-evident that communitarians and individualists alike seek a synthesized thesis that advocates for the person, not the individual nor the community, as the object of socio-political philosophy.
Yes, very good. So just so that you are inspired, this is a writing by your own lecturer. And so it's not far-fetched at all I just want you to have that thinking. It's not some who does something. No. 2018. In fact, it was even done earlier, but this is the print version or the article, whatever version. So I want you to be inspired. I said, after all the analysis that have gone on up there, after all the critiquing and examination, this is what the finding is. Like an investigator has gone around and looked at left, right, center, listened to everybody's view and says, okay, well, this is what I think the issue is. I think that the supposed contention between the two of you, it's not a contention at all. Maybe you are settling a marriage issue, or you have called Putin and Zelensky before you are chatting. So I don't think I see any challenge now. I think it's more in the what you call justice and what this person also calls justice. If you could just have a different word for justice and call and rather use humanity, then we will be able to resolve this thing. Don't you think so? So that's what I'm doing. And so the point is, if we took off all the ambiguities around the reference point, the individual, if we stop saying the individual, because then the communitarian will not be happy. Why are you talking individuality? That's what he will start saying. Then when we stop also saying the community, the individualist will also be happy. That why should I be fixed and dictated to, and my life is managed by your so-called the community? Who told you that I want to be free to choose where I belong, which kind of life. So you can't force me to fit into your hole. So then no talk of the individual, no talk of the community, because really that is not your concern, both people. You are interested in a higher value, which is what? Respect for both the aspects of the human person, her rights, her autonomy, her free will, etc. That is captured as what? Her individuality, her uniqueness, plus the other people are also concerned about her relational ties, her interconnectedness, the social stability, the collective stability, cooperation, fellow feeling, common good. If so, then let's deal with a person rather and understand personhood to be a composite of everything. That way, we clarify what the object of sociopolitical philosophy is. The focus point is the human person with all the intricacies surrounding his or her life. When we start studying from there, we will know where to place the LGBTQ debate. We will know where to place the Achimota Rastafarian students debate. We will know where to put, you see, people want to fight and defend what they think is their right. But the fight may ultimately protect their collective good. How do you negotiate the two? That is what this paper is saying. Now, thank you, Wendy. Pessimism as a response. Guys, I need someone who reads like Wendy or better, or the people who have read so far. If you won't read well, I'll let the ladies read. We are finishing, eh? Mumuni, please read for me what you see now. Just a minute, let me, If we read from the top, it will be too long, so hold on. Okay, you may read the introduction of that personalism response, and we'll start rounding down. Mumuni, go ahead. The thesis of personalism, or your hand is down. You may have to unmute, oh, say. Okay, let me take Rebecca and then. Rebecca, go ahead.
The response.
Yes, please.
The thesis of personalism, whose espousal.
Espousal.
Sorry, espousal. The thesis of personalism, whose espousal implicit all this round, states that actual human society is not inhabited by atomic, as the individual,
Atomic individuals, no.
abstract individualities, but is constituted or inhabited by persons whose personhood is naturally and necessarily already both individual and communal.
Hold on, thank you very much. Thank you so much. I think we still have breaks. So let me, but thank you. I will take Victoria. Okay, Victoria, read the same thing again. Oh, we are recording so that you yourselves will benefit when you are revising. Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Victoria, read, please. Victoria Kafu. Hey, Vicky, are you there?
The thesis of personalism, whose espousal.
Go ahead.
The thesis of personalism, whose espousal has been implicit all this while. Is in the atomic individuals, no abstract individualities, but is constituted or inhabited by human persons whose personhood is naturally and necessarily already both individual and communal, whether or not the persons themselves conceive it.
Very good. Let me take, I want someone to read it again because I think yours wasn't also too clear. But that's the summation of
As such,
personalism.
freedom and dignity. And
No,
that's
thank you. Hey, this is Avik. Some of the things you're reading me, I cannot hear. I don't know if I didn't hear. Thank you, I want them to hear it clearly. So let me take Regina. Let's see if Regina's own will also be clear. Regina, read the same thing. We want to end with that. So I want you to be concrete.
Okay. Personalism as a response. Doctor, please, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Please read.
Okay. The thesis of personalism, whose exposure has been implicit all this
Espouser.
while.
Espouser, like to espouse. So who's espouser? Go ahead.
Whose espousal has been implicit all this while states that actual human society is not inhabited by atomic individuals, no abstract individualities, but is constituted or inhabited by human persons whose personhood is naturally and necessarily already both individual and communal, whether or not the person themselves conceive it as such or accept it to be the case.
Well done, all of you. So some few emphasis there. Look at the paragraph very well. Already, I'm highlighting. It's naturally and necessarily already. You are already that, whether you admit it or not. You're already both individual and emphasis on the end. See, it's in italics. And communal. So you are at once individual and communal. And I've said that it's not a little bit of this and a little bit of that. That's where it varies from Jechi's moderate communitarianism. Jechi still distinguishes the individual from the community, but tries to merge them. So you can still see the cassava in the plate and the plantain in the plate. And he says, bring them close together. That is not what personalism is. Personalism says, think of the human person as the blended cassava and plantain mixed together. It has become fufu sitting on your table. You can't take out his individuality without accompanying an accompanying communality. See, and vice versa. So if you hate the rights of a certain person, you have hate where she comes from. You have hate who gave birth to her. You have to think that way. If you think that you're just dealing with the person sitting in front of you, are hurting their, I don't know the examples to give to make it concrete for you, okay? When you think of human beings that way, you are always interested in people's psychological well-being, in addition to their religious well-being, in addition to their, in the name of pursuing their rights. So the person has come in to sit before you and saying that she's pursuing Bedujan, the 10th child. That is why she keeps coming to your hospital. You don't throw that out and say, oh, that's foolishness. You don't think about your health. You will die and you will help her, but be considerate. Be thinking about how you can mitigate that concern she has, which is about a relational one, not directly hers. Well done. Okay. Let's see if we will touch up with something else. It would definitely be a repetition of something, just for emphasis. And then let's read the conclusion. And this time I want a gentleman. I think I saw Obed's hand earlier. Is it still there? Obed, read. Conclusion. This is how you should write too. You see how we are writing? I'm not saying how you should write as you should become an expert writer automatically. There are others who are even more expert than your lecturer. But the skill of philosophical writing is what I want you to be particular about. Philosophers don't just narrate stories and tell stories how something happened and this. No. That is too cheap. Philosophers engage, examine, critique, review, contribute, synthesize, propose. You see that? That's argument. It's argumentative and it deals with practical issues. So you may be abstracting, but when you finish, it is always contextualized. Conclusion. Obed, are you there? If you are not there, Devlin, read for me, please. Oh, let's finish. Let's finish, quick.
This paper has been. Madam, should I read?
Hello.
Is it Elvis? Who is reading now? Devlin. Devlin, go ahead.
Okay. This paper has been committed to exposing the source of disagreement between individualists and communitarians.
Would you pause for just a minute? This is what I'm saying. If you were to write essays for us, I could go to the introduction. You see how it sets off. Then look at the conclusion. We don't have time for stories. This paper did X, Y, and Z. First, it said this, engage that, critique this, diagnose that, and propose that. A conclusion we have arrived at is this, that, and that. Period. That's philosophy. No embellishment, no over the bar, talking. So that is what I'm saying. Apart from the content proper that we are engaged, look at the scale. This paper has been committed. So even if you didn't know anything, didn't read the whole, I think 12 or so pages, you are able to, I said 12, it's 21 to 23 currently. How many pages are there? I can't extract it from here. You are able to get a grip of what the content was about by looking at the conclusion. You should learn that skill. So Sir said, this paper has been committed to exposing the source of disagreement between individualists and communitarians. The whole thing we did was to try to find out what is the ground of that contention between the two schools of thought. Please continue.
It has argued that the apparent disagreement is as a result of the debaters' inconsistent and incoherent use and conceptualization of the term the individual.
Very good. Let me explain that. Please let me explain. So all we have done, you see, we set off to find what the problem or the source of the contention is. Then what we have seen is that the issue arises from inconsistent and incoherent. Inconsistent means you say it this way, then the next time you change it and you mean another thing. The next time you say it and you mean that, that's inconsistent. The incoherent means you don't let it flow from one to the other, from one to the other. You are going this way, before we know it, you are arguing the other way. So they are like a twin. Inconsistency and incoherence. We are saying that after we checked, this paper checks and detects that the problem, the apparent disagreement arises from this inconsistency and incoherence in the use. See, that use is italicized. It's for emphasis. Italicized means it is sleeping, it is slanted. We have slanted it because we want you to catch it. See that this one is saying something very important. Okay. The use and the conceptualization, how you are thinking about it, not just how you are using the word, the individual, but how you are thinking about the concept called the individual. This is what we have discovered. Say the next line.
The proposed way out espoused in this paper is the thesis of personalism. The advantage of personalism over both communitarianism and individualism is seen in its ability to contest individualism's labeling and conception of the person as an individual, without denying her natural and necessary character of individuality, autonomy, freedom, and right-bearing on one hand, and at the same time advocates a consistent and pragmatic defense of the equally natural and necessary communality or relationality, of a equally natural and necessary communality or relationality, without restricting it to a fixed immutable conception of a unitary or fraternal community.
Hey, Mommy, yes. The whole point is there is an advantage that the author believes personalism brings to the debate between the two positions, Barca and Real Madrid. The pessimist argument is that we have a better case. Why? Because we are able to argue with the individualists to get a better deal for the communitarian. When it comes to what? The fact that human beings are naturally communal also. The case we make is stronger than saying that the community protects the enemy. What community? But when we say people are naturally communitarian, naturally communal, that's the case we make on behalf of communitarians when we engage what the individual. We tell them human beings are also naturally communal, relational. That one the individualists cannot throw away. You can't say that human beings don't have any relational ties. Because you are looking for rights, you say that they don't have relations. No, the individualists will accept that and say, so listen to what I'm saying, and then they will come closer and engage. At the same time, we say personalism has an advantage because personalism is able to engage the concern of the individualist. And so we stand with the individualist and tell the communitarian, look, my friend, you must also admit that human beings have rights, uniqueness. They are unique, they are autonomous. You can tell me to sit down. Physically, I'll sit. In my head, I'm standing. You can't change it. Autonomy, I have myself. Therefore, you want to be careful how much of a case you are pushing in the name of community. There isn't community, there's communality. There isn't the individual, there's individuality. Now, so what? That is what personalism as a response to the individualism, communitarianism debate does. And I've already told you, if you read through the text, you see, it's not speaking moderate communitarianism. That's Kwame Gyekye's view. It's not speaking liberal. Kwame Gyekye's view, labeled as moderate communitarianism, still distinguishes the individual from the community. He thinks of the human person as the individual. Except that he says the community should recognize the rights and freedoms of the individual, where it doesn't conflict. That's why people have critiqued it. You see the text. If they said that you didn't do us any good. You just made us feel like you're bringing us some hope. But you left us in the hands of community again. It is a moderate communitarian view. You are moderating how much of space community will have. So it depends on what community we have in mind. You are still making a case for the communitarian. Says Pamakewa, for example, against the Gyekye view, which is what? Moderation, moderate communitarian. Personalism is not advocating for a moderation of one over the other. Personalism says the human being is not an individual or the individual. Neither is community one, where there is a fixed, that's what you read there, a fixed, immutable, unitary. Unitary means one. Unitary, fraternal, biological, blood-related community. Community is bigger than that. I belong to a Christian community, and the people inside are not my father's brothers or my mother's daughters. But I think of them as a community of a kind. I belong to academic community. When you speak of the academic community, I'll be affected. It doesn't mean that we are fraternal, biological, no. Okay, so we say that don't come and talk community, communitarians. Don't come talking community as if we are fixed. And it is personalism that helps to bring those discussions out and deal with them. Okay, so you are reading well, so conclude for us. That's the last paragraph of the text. Read, upholding.
Upholding this thesis of personalism does not only dissolve the pseudo disagreements entailed in this.
Well done. You did well with that.
Thank you, madam. But would more importantly expose the actual concern of both perspectives, which reads in simple terms as how and who to govern the natural and necessary individuality and communality of persons. First, within the person herself. Second, interpersons. And third, among interrelated persons or collectives.
Well done. Excellent. Who is this? Who read? What's the name again? I want to keep the names. I think it was Devlin, eh? Is it Amegachi?
Yes.
Amega?
No, just
Devlin
Amega.
Yes. Okay. Well done. And all of you who read, I play my videos, so I play back a lot so that there is some rejoinder or mitigation I come. So I keep records. So keep working. Sometimes a lot of hands go up. You are not able to call them, but they are recorded. When I pull it, I see those who have never said anything or have never raised their hands for anything, not read, nothing. We will hear some. You're not earning any class participation mark. All right, thank you very much. So this is the substance of the communitarianism, individualism debate and the person's response to that, which is still subject to your critique and evaluation. I would like you to take it closely, friends, because everything I have taught you by the grace of God, I will ask you questions on them. Let me take questions. I see hands up. Should we end our video or maybe we should add it? It doesn't matter unless we listen and it's not directly. We should end the video. This one, I don't plan to upload it because you already have enough. Let's take a question from Hakim who hasn't spoken to. Hey, Gifty, have you been around all this while? I thought you were busy again today. Hakim, go ahead with your question. I'll take Gifty afterwards. Go.
Madam, please upload it.
Yo, Mate, let's hear Hakim. Yeah, Hakim. Okay, Gifty. Gifty, ask your question. I didn't know you were around. Hey, nowadays Gifty is flexing you. Yeah. Go on.
I've been around, but I said everything. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you too.
The concern about the class, about group work, 16 couldn't submit their work.
Don't worry. I'll reopen it for you guys. I'll reopen it because I had a heartbeat for the work.
Able to upload. He didn't open the site where they can upload it, so weren't able to.
That a specific group couldn't upload. Let me end the video. This one's better. Why group 16 alone? Because I didn't give any group any special. Okay, I will look at it, but I suspect that they might have used up that opportunity and they now want to load something again. See that? Because I didn't give any group any special attention. I just said the question and everybody who has submitted used the same method. So if there's a challenge with that group, then they will have to explain what it is that hasn't gone on.